Hello my beautiful friends, it's Amanda here, and today we're doing a BYOP with me, build your own palette inspiration video. We are doing 4 different palette designs today using the Lethal Cosmetics palette designer. This is by far the best palette building tool online, at least that I've seen, and today's inspiration is the Wildflower palette. I did a full swatch and review, and while I liked the palette that they curated, I felt that I wanted to see maybe some other color stories appearing in this packaging. I love the packaging. I like the inspiration. There's a lot of different directions you can go with a wildflower or floral in general inspiration. When I reviewed the Lethal Cosmetics curated Wildflower palette, I just felt that there was a lack of depth, and I also felt that some of the shimmer shades in the palette, while all beautiful, some were just a little bit too similar for me personally, and these palettes are quite expensive, so I think that if you're gonna order something like a lethal palette, which I do highly recommend because their formulas are amazing, their packaging is top notch, customer service, shipping, website, everything, 10 out of 10 experience every time I've ever purchased from the brand. But I do feel that you should design your own palette if you're not 100% happy with the curated selections because they are more expensive. And you know, if you're dropping a pretty penny on an eyeshadow palette, you really want to have something that you're going to use a lot, you're going to feel inspired by, and they have so many different shades, so many finishes, a lot of really unique and beautiful shades, all high performing. So it's easy to create a palette that you know you're going to love, that you're going to use, and I'm here today to give you a few ideas. Now, the first palette that I'm working on is a pretty basic pink and purple. Well, I say pretty basic for lethal. Nothing lethal does is basic, that's for sure. But I wanted to really be inspired by the packaging, and every single palette that you see today will use the Wildflower palette packaging. I really like it. And I'm also going to include shades from the original curated Wildflower palette in every single one of my redesigns because I do want to draw off of that inspiration, and I do want to infuse some of these new shades that were released in the Wildflower collection into these inspiration palettes. If you're interested in any of them, perhaps some of these curated palettes can catch your eye. As I was building these palettes online, I took care to use shades that I have in my own personal collection. I do have quite an extensive Lethal Cosmetics single shadow collection, so I used those to show you what this palette would actually be like because a picture can only take you so far. The shadows on the site are obviously a digitized representation of the shadows, so seeing them actually applied to the skin, I think, makes a world of difference, and you can start to formulate in your head what type of looks you would do. At least I can, so I'm hoping that you will see the vision more when it's in both the digital photo on the palette builder and also here in the swatches. As we're going through these different curated palettes, I would love if you would think about what would you name this palette. You definitely don't have to stick to the floral theme. My mind automatically goes there because as I was putting these colors together, that's sort of where my headspace was. But I would love to hear what palette names you would give these color stories. You always have such good ideas and such good recommendations. I love hearing where your brain goes. So this time around, I'm not going to give you my personal palette names like I have in the past when I've remixed palettes. I just want to hear what type of inspiration strikes you when you see these color stories. I felt like the pink and purple palette was kind of obligatory with this packaging. That's really the first place that my mind went. However, you know that I cannot resist a green and purple color story, so I am going to give you a couple of those here, two very different green and purple inspirations. The one I'm showing you right now definitely is a little bit more neutral leaning, definitely leaning into more of a blue tone. Really just giving you a hint of purple with this one. I can't resist a purple shadow anytime. But the next palette that I'll show you is also a green and purple type of inspiration, but it's a lot brighter, a lot less neutrals, a lot more impactful purple shades. Definitely variations on a theme here. If you've seen my collaboration palette with Odin's Eye Cosmetics, then you already know greens and purples with a hint of neutral is really the style that I'm drawn to right now. I'm definitely starting to lean into more neutral based and more cool tones. Undertone wise, that's just what I've been drawn to, and that's what I feel like really suits my complexion personally lately. However, I will give you a warm toned palette as well. The very last palette that I'll do in this video has a lot of bright warm tones because I know we all have different preferences. We're all looking for different inspiration, different undertones. So hopefully this video will have a little bit of everything, something for everybody. One thing I'm doing once I finalize the layouts of these palettes is I'm going to go through and hover over each shade so that you can see the shade names, and I'm also going to list them in the description box as well as lay over the shade names on the swatches so you can always either take a pause to take a screenshot or write down some shade names, or you can just kind of breeze through, enjoy the soothing tones of my voice, and you can scroll down to the description box to find the shade names down there. I think the combination of neutrals and blues in this one gives me more of a beachy vibe. I'm going to do my best to resist naming it because I just said that I wasn't going to do that, but the names just start popping in my head, especially as I'm editing and voicing over and I see all of the colors laid out. I will distract myself and share my friend Teresa is Dead's affiliate code instead. I do not have a code for Lethal Cosmetics. I don't think they give out a lot of codes. Every time I shop on the site, I use Teresa is Dead's code. Her code is the word garbage. That saves 10% on pretty much everything on the site. I don't think I've run into any exclusions yet, but you know, it probably exists out there somewhere. Anyway, use Teresa's code. I will list it in the description box. If I'm not making any affiliate coins, that doesn't mean nobody else should. I'm always excited for my friends to do well, and I'm always happy to support my friends. So go and support my friend Teresa and use her code and buy one of these awesome palettes because the palette builder is super fun and addicting. Actually, be careful because it is very addictive. I could make these all day long. I'm impressed with myself that you're only getting 4 color stories because I could literally record hours of footage of mixing and matching all of these beautiful eyeshadows. When you go on to the palette builder tool, you can save your palettes. And you can also mark the eyeshadows that you already own if you do purchase any of these. That way you don't accidentally get the same shade twice. If you decide to go and use this palette builder tool, which I highly, highly recommend, if for no other reason than it's just super duper fun to play with these shadows, and the interface is very user friendly, it's very smooth, it's easy to change things around, edit your palettes. I just encourage you to really play, have fun. Don't be afraid to click on eyeshadows that maybe you know you don't necessarily want. This isn't permanent, and I say the same thing about applying makeup too. You can change your mind with this. You can swap them around. You can really let yourself be a little bit crazy click on a red eyeshadow and put it into your palette knowing that you'll never purchase it, just to see what it looks like, just to get some inspiration, shake things up. This is a very innocuous, pain-free way to do that. And I constantly say the same thing about actually applying your makeup too. It is not permanent. You can wipe it off. You can put on makeup just to wear in your house. Put on something that you know you wouldn't be comfortable wearing to work or wherever it is that you're going, just to see how it feels, just to try it. If you have a red lipstick sitting on your vanity that you have never worn out, you bought it as an aspirational item, but you just feel like you quote unquote can't pull it off or you shouldn't wear it for whatever reason, just try it on. Nothing is going to happen. There will be no negative consequence short of being allergic to an ingredient, which I genuinely hope that doesn't happen to you. And hey, that does happen. But in all reality, you most likely will have zero negative consequences. The only thing that's going to happen is that you're going to have tried something new. You're going to have experimented. You will have more knowledge about what that actually looks like on you, what it actually feels like. And you might look in the mirror and be like, hey, I'm in my bad bitch era now that I put this red lipstick on. So just risk it, make a crazy palette, put on red lipstick, do lashes or winged liner or whatever it is that you've been too afraid to do, because it probably won't be terrible, but it really is likely to be awesome. Obviously, plenty of differences, but this color story, once it was all swatched, really reminded me of like a Florist Story 2.0. We've got the one neutral transition type shade, some sheer sparkly multi-chromes, purples and greens. This is a truly very, very Amanda makeup just for fun type of palette. But I do think that this is actually more of like a 2.0 version or a companion palette version, because I don't actually see a lot of overlap, which is surprising. I managed to stay away from the berry purples and really stick with a more blue tone overall. Clearly, I am not over green and purple, but I am going to give all the warm tone babes out there a warm toned palette. This last one is a more summery, more tropical type of take on a wildflower theme. It's definitely giving me summer vacation, island getaway type of vibes. When I do these videos, I really do my best to curate collections of eyeshadows that I think could actually make really interesting looks. I try to do a mix of textures, a mix of finishes. I try to arrange them in a way that is pleasing to the eye and useful. Basically, I'm not just going in here clicking any old shadow. I really do put a lot of thought into which shadows I choose, which colors and textures are included, where I lay them out in the palette. Because I know that this type of thing doesn't come second nature to everybody, even people who are creative or who are makeup lovers, sometimes designing and laying out a palette, picking the shades, and all of that is pretty intimidating. So I'm hoping that you can use this as a reference, even if you like most of what I choose for a palette and you want to swap out a couple shades. Maybe you don't love the orangey tones and you want to put in some browns instead, or whatever it may be. My hope is genuinely that you will use these videos as a jumping off point, as an inspiration. Maybe you can even grab shadows that you already have in your own collection, those that aren't lethal shadows, and you can curate your own little palettes to look like the color stories that I put forth here. Whatever it takes to get the creative juices flowing, to get the inspiration, to get you excited. That's what I really love about makeup. That's what I love about designing palettes. And I hope that that comes across in these videos. And even if it's not super helpful as far as helping you pick your own lethal palette, I just hope it's fun to watch. It's very fun for me to make. Designing color stories that are inspiring, useful, and unique is really such a passion for me. I wish that I could do this all day, every day. Unfortunately, these palette builder videos aren't incredibly well viewed on my channel, but I'm still gonna make them anyway because I love to. It's very fun. And it also makes me feel better about my giant collection of single eyeshadows because here we are putting them to use for the greater good, hopefully. At least that's what I'm going to tell myself about these videos. Now you've seen the fourth and final palette from this particular video. I would love to hear your thoughts, not just about what you would name these palettes, but which one's your favorite? Do you have any of these shades? What type of build your own palette inspirations do you want to see next? I always love to hear what you think about things. I love to hear your ideas. I base a lot of my purchases and my videos on what you put down in the comments below. So leave all your thoughts on these palettes and future BYOP videos that you want to see, whether it's a redesign or some other type of inspiration. Leave all of those thoughts in the comments for me, and make sure you check out my Build Your Own Palette playlist. I have a bunch of videos over there to help you along the process of curating your own color stories, finding new single shadows to love, maybe even rediscovering ones that you already have in your collection and viewing them in a new light, in a new color story, and using them in a way that is fresh and exciting. Thank you so much for watching this video, for spending some of your precious time here with me. Know that, as always, I love your beautiful little face, and I will see you real soon in my next video. Bye!